What would you do if a single moment turned your whole life upside down? Ethan Hall never expected that one quiet morning on the open range would change his path forever. But on that day, under the tired wheels of his old wagon, he found something that shook him more than any storm or hardship he had lived through. A young girl trembling in the cold, hiding from a danger she refused to name. Ethan was 35, a widower with a heart that had never healed. 2 years had passed since his wife Clara died from a fever that swept through the outskirts of Abilene. Since then, Ethan lived in a haze of grief and struggle. His ranch barely held together. The fields refused to grow anything. His cattle were few. And the debts waiting for him in town felt heavier than the soil he tried to work. He survived by hauling goods for nearby ranchers. His wagon was old and creaked like a tired old man, but it was the last piece of a life he once shared with Clara, so he held on to it like a memory carved in wood. That morning, Ethan stepped out into pale pink light. Dew covered the grass, and the cold air wrapped around him as he stretched his stiff back. Marigold, his loyal horse, snorted in mild annoyance at the rough campsite he had chosen. Ethan reached for the coffee pot when he heard it, the softest whimper beneath the wagon. At first, he thought it was an animal, but when he knelt and looked closer, his breath caught in his throat. A child lay curled in the dirt, a girl, maybe 12, dressed in a torn gingham dress. Her boots were worn out, her hands scraped and bruised. Her hair was tangled across her dirty face, and her shoulders shook from cold and fear. She tried to shrink away when he moved closer. Ethan's heart tightened. He hadn't expected much from life lately, but he never imagined finding a child under his wagon. He crouched slowly. "You hungry?" he asked in a gentle voice. A low growl from her stomach answered him before she even nodded. Ethan lifted her out carefully and set her near the fading fire. She grabbed the bread and cheese he offered, but only after watching him for a long, tense moment. She held the food tight, as if she feared he might take it back. He saw fresh bruises along her arms. No child earned bruises like those by accident. After a moment, he asked softly, "What's your name?" She hesitated, her eyes darted to the horizon. Then she whispered, "Mary Jenkins." Ethan felt something shift inside him. He didn't fully believe the name, but he didn't push her. He simply nodded. "I'm Ethan Hall. You out here alone, Mary?" A thin tremor crossed her face, and she hugged her arms tightly. She only nodded. Ethan could not leave her. No decent man could. He helped her into the wagon and headed toward Abilene, hoping to buy supplies and maybe find help from Dr. Vance. The girl said little, but she kept glancing behind them, as if someone or something was chasing her shadow. As they neared town, Mary suddenly grabbed his sleeve. Her voice broke with fear. "Please don't take me there. Please, I can't be seen." Her trembling plea froze him. Ethan turned the wagon away from town and headed straight home. His ranch sat lonely on a stretch of tough land. A weather-beaten cabin, a barn that leaned like it was tired of standing, a corral that needed fixing again. The windmill creaked like a whisper from another life. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. Mary refused the porch and instead stood near a barrel, arms crossed tight. She watched every corner of the yard like she expected men to jump out at any moment. Ethan pretended to work, but he kept glancing at her. She didn't trust him yet, but he saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the kind worn by someone who had seen too much too young. When he tried to check her bruises, she pulled away. "I'm fine," she muttered, but she wasn't fine, not by a mile. Inside the cabin, Ethan found an old quilt from Clara's trunk and handed it to her. She accepted it with a soft, grateful stare that cut straight into Ethan's chest. She looked so small wrapped in the blanket. Later, when she stepped outside to wash her face, Ethan spotted her satchel near the trunk. A torn map peeked out. Against his better judgment, he pulled it free. Half the map was missing, but the words Sienna Wells were clear. He had never heard of the place. Before he could study it, a shadow filled the doorway. Mary stood there, eyes blazing with fear and betrayal. Ethan shoved the map back, guilt tightening in his throat. She stared at him with wounded confusion, and whatever thin thread of trust they had built snapped. The next day passed under a heavy cloud. She barely spoke. Ethan tried to mend the fence, but every nail felt like it echoed her silence. By afternoon, a wagon rolled up. Jeremiah Alcott, Ethan's only real friend, tipped his hat. "Dr. Vance says you didn't come by. Everything all right?" Ethan forced a smile. "Just busy." Jeremiah noticed movement at the door. "You got company?" Ethan hesitated. "Someone who needed a place for a bit. She's shy." Jeremiah warned him about outlaws near the western hills, a dangerous gang. Men nobody wanted to cross. Ethan felt a cold wave sweep through him. That night, as the fire dimmed, Mary finally spoke. Her voice shook. "My name isn't Mary." Ethan sat frozen. "My name is Lily Rock," she whispered. "My father is Conrad Rock." Quote, Ethan's heart dropped. He knew that name. Everyone knew it. Conrad Rock was a wanted man, hunted from Kansas to Texas. Lily's eyes glistened with tears. "I didn't want to lie. I was scared." Ethan realized then that he wasn't just helping a lost child. He was protecting the daughter of a wanted outlaw. And danger was already closing in. What if the person you trusted was suddenly the only shield between you and a world ready to hunt you down? As Ethan Hall stared at Lily Rock that night, he felt the ground shift beneath him. She wasn't just a frightened child. She was the daughter of Conrad Rock, a man whose name echoed through saloons, sheriff offices, and wanted posters across the West. The fire crackled beside them. Lily pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Ethan saw the fear in her eyes, deeper than anything a child should ever know. "My father didn't mean to hurt anyone," Lily whispered, "but the men he rode with did. After the last robbery, everything went wrong. I got separated from him. I didn't know where to go." Ethan's chest tightened. He didn't know how to comfort her. He only knew she was alone, scared, and hunted. "You're safe here," Ethan said. "For now." But even as he said it, he felt the lie hanging in the air. At dawn, a pounding at the door shattered the calm. Ethan's blood ran cold. He opened the door to find Sheriff Gideon Roberts standing tall, his salt and pepper beard catching the morning light. Two deputies stood behind him, scanning the land like hawks. "Morning, Ethan," the sheriff said. "We got word Conrad Rock might be nearby. We're checking every homestead." Ethan forced a steady voice. "Haven't seen him." Roberts narrowed his eyes. "There's talk his daughter was spotted near town, girl about 12. You seen anyone like that?" Ethan felt sweat on his neck. He prayed Lily had hidden like he told her. Sheriff Roberts stepped inside, boots thudding across the wooden floor. His deputies searched the cabin, opening the trunk that held Clara's old clothes, checking the cot, even tapping on floorboards. Ethan kept a calm face, but his heart pounded painfully. One deputy knocked on the plank above the hidden root cellar. The hollow sound echoed through the room. Roberts looked down at the rug covering the trapdoor. For a long moment, the sheriff stared at Ethan. The room felt smaller. The silence felt heavier. Finally, Roberts stepped back. "Nothing here," he said. "But if you see anything at all, you come to me first." When they left, Ethan closed the door and exhaled as if he'd been underwater. He lifted the rug. Lily stared up at him from the root cellar, trembling. "They're getting closer," she whispered. And she was right. That evening, Ethan knew they needed help. He remembered Henry Bledsoe, an old friend who had once worked for the Pinkertons, but now ran a private agency in Wichita. If anyone knew where Conrad Rock was, or how dangerous the hunt had become, it was Henry. But sending a telegram meant going into town, and town meant risk. Still, Ethan had no choice. That night, after leaving Lily safe in the cabin, Ethan rode quietly into Abilene. The town was nearly silent, lanterns glowing outside the saloon. He sent a short-coded telegram. "Need info on crossing, urgent, reply soon, E. Hall." But as he left the station, he felt eyes on him. A man leaned in the shadows beside the saloon. He tipped his hat, a gesture that felt more like a warning. Ethan slipped into an alley, sticking to the darkness. When he reached the feed store, a figure nearly ran into him. Deputy Callahan. "What are you doing sneaking around, Ethan?" the deputy asked, hand on his gun. "Just picking up supplies," Ethan lied. Callahan stared hard at him before stepping aside. "Be careful. Bounty hunters are in the area." Ethan didn't need the reminder. 3 days later, a courier delivered Henry's reply. Ethan unfolded the message with shaking hands. "Rock seen near Dodge City. Bounty hunters involved," daughter rumored with him. "Dangerous. Use caution." Lily read the telegram, her eyes filling with fear. "They'll look for me to find him," she whispered. Ethan put a hand on her shoulder. "I won't let anyone take you." But as nights grew colder, the danger closed in. Every rustle in the grass sounded like boots. Every distant hoofbeat made Ethan reach for his shotgun. Then one night, Lily shook Ethan awake. "Someone's outside." He grabbed the shotgun and stepped onto the porch. 2 men waited near the barn. One held a lantern. The other sat horseback, pistol gleaming in the moonlight. "Evening," the scarred man said. "Name's Tom Blevins. We're looking for Conrad Rock. Heard he's got a kid. Might have come through here." "You're not welcome on my land," Ethan said. Blevins stepped closer, smirking. "You calling me a liar? We know he's close, and we know someone's hiding the girl." Ethan lifted the shotgun an inch. "I said leave." In a single heartbeat, the pass turned deadly. The man on the horse charged, firing. Ethan fired back. The blast lit up the yard. Bullets shattered the porch post. Lily screamed inside. Blevins dove for cover, cursing. A shot whistled past Ethan's ear. Another punched into the barn door. Then, as quick as they came, the bounty hunters retreated into the dark. "This isn't over," Blevins growled. Ethan held the shotgun tight, chest heaving. When silence returned, Ethan knelt beside Lily, who trembled like a shaken leaf. He pulled her close, heart aching. "We can't stay here," he said. At dawn, they packed what little they had. Dried beans, jerky, water, a spare rifle. Lily clutched her torn map close. "Where are we going?" she asked, voice small. "South," Ethan said, "to a friend near the Pecos River. We'll be safe there." As they rode away, Lily kept looking behind them. She wasn't just afraid of bounty hunters. She was afraid her father might be alive, and afraid he might find her before the law did. Hours into their journey, a lone rider appeared. For a moment, Ethan thought it was another hunter. But it was Jeremiah Alcott. "You're running," Jeremiah said. "I'm riding with you." For the first time in days, Ethan felt a sliver of hope. That night, they camped under an oak tree. After a simple meal, Lily showed them the torn map. It pointed west, toward a place called Sienna Wells, a name neither man recognized. But the fear in Lily's voice told them everything. Her father believed that map was valuable, and others believed it too. The next morning, as they entered a narrow rocky pass, gunshots exploded from above. Bullets kicked up dust. Lily screamed. Jeremiah fired back. Ethan fought to control the wagon. A shooter on the ridge aimed again. Then, crack. A single rifle shot echoed from the far side of the pass. The gunman dropped. Jeremiah froze. Ethan stared up the trail. A lone rider approached. Tall, broad-shouldered, rifle smoking. Ethan knew that face. Conrad Rock. Lily gasped. "Pa?" And just like that, the man the whole West was hunting had found them. Danger has a way of finding people, even in the wide-open West. When Conrad Rock rode into the rocky pass with dust swirling behind him, the air around Ethan Hall tightened like a rope. This was the moment every bounty hunter, every sheriff, every whisper across Kansas had been chasing. But this wasn't a legend or a poster. This was a man, a father, standing in front of his daughter. Lily froze at the sight of him. Her small hands trembled around the torn map she clutched to her chest. "Pa?" she whispered again. Conrad slid off his horse. His face was worn, marked by dust and regrets, but his eyes held the same fire that had kept him alive on the run for years. He looked at Lily as if seeing sunlight for the first time in months. "You okay, sweetheart?" he asked. Lily nodded, though tears welled in her eyes. When she stepped into his arms, Ethan saw the relief wash over her fragile face. She wasn't scared in that moment. She was just a girl hugging her father. Conrad looked up at Ethan and Jeremiah with guarded gratitude. "Thank you for keeping her safe," he said quietly. Jeremiah didn't lower his guard. His hand still hovered near his holster. "I didn't do it for you," he muttered. "I did it for Ethan." Conrad didn't argue. He simply nodded, the weight of the world sitting on his shoulders. They fixed the wagon's broken wheel and continued west toward the place Lily's map pointed to, Sienna Wells. The ground grew harsher as the land opened into empty plains and scorched rock. Buzzards circled high above. Even the wind felt dry enough to carry secrets. Along the way, Conrad rode close to Lily. "You been carrying this map the whole time?" he asked gently. Lily nodded. "It's all you left me with." Conrad's jaw tightened. "I gave it to you because I knew things were getting bad. I knew my partners were turning on me. I wanted you safe if something happened." Ethan exchanged a look with Jeremiah. The outlaw wasn't making excuses. He was telling the truth, the kind that twists a heart without asking permission. When they finally reached Sienna Wells, the land looked dead. Sun-cracked earth stretched around them. A broken windmill leaned against a sky empty of clouds. A dried stone well sat like a forgotten grave marker. Lily studied the torn map and pointed toward a rocky outcrop. "It should be in there." They followed her inside a small crevice hidden behind thorny brush. The air cooled as they descended into the shadows of a narrow cave. At the back, half buried under fallen stones, was a wooden chest sealed with rusted iron bands. Conrad knelt beside it. His hands shook slightly as he pried the lid open with the butt of his rifle. Inside lay gold coins, bundles of old banknotes, a few small bags of jewelry, and a single folded letter. Lily covered her mouth, stunned. Jeremiah let out a low whistle. "That's a whole lifetime right there." Ethan remained silent, watching Conrad as he sifted through the chest. "This was supposed to change Lily's life," Conrad said quietly. "I never planned to live long enough to spend it myself." But before Ethan could respond, a sound cracked the air, hoofbeats, followed by angry voices. "Blevins," Jeremiah whispered. Gunfire exploded outside the cave. Bullets slammed against rock walls. Dust filled the air. Lily screamed as she ducked behind Ethan. Jeremiah fired from behind a boulder. Conrad braced himself at the cave entrance, gun blazing. "Get Lily out!" Conrad shouted. "We can fight together!" Ethan yelled back. "No!" Conrad barked. "They want me, not her!" More bullets tore through the cave. Stones shattered, the air filled with smoke and grit. Conrad reloaded with trembling hands. His face had the calm of a man who had lived his entire life on the edge. Then he turned to Lily. "I love you, don't forget that." "No," Lily sobbed. "No, Pa, come with us." His eyes softened. "I can't run anymore." With one final look at his daughter, Conrad Rock stepped out into the blazing sunlight and opened fire with every ounce of strength left in him. His shots echoed through the canyon like a desperate promise. Ethan grabbed Lily, pulling her toward a narrow crack Jeremiah spotted earlier, another opening that led out the back of the cave. They ran as gunfire raged behind them. Outside, they hid behind an outcropping. Lily cried into Ethan's coat, trembling. Then, over the canyon's roar came a single harsh shot. The gunfire faded. Silence spread across the land. Jeremiah slowly rose and looked toward the entrance. His eyes told the truth without a word. Conrad Rock was gone. Lily broke from Ethan's arms and ran back into the cave. She found her father lying beside the chest. Dust settled on his still shoulders. The outlaw who chased redemption had finally run out of road. Lily collapsed beside him, sobbing. Ethan knelt next to her. His heart ached for her grief. He saw a man who had lived a hard life, forced to make hard choices, paying the price so his daughter could live free. Jeremiah stepped forward. "We gotta move," he said gently. More men could come. Ethan gathered as much of the money as they could carry. Not the gold, not the jewelry, just enough to give Lily a future. The rest they left with Conrad, covered gently with his coat. Lily clung to Ethan as they walked out of Sienna Wells. The sky blazed red over the barren land, as if the West itself was mourning an outlaw who died protecting the only thing he ever loved. Back at the wagon, Ethan helped Lily climb onto the seat. "I don't have anyone now," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "You have me." Lily looked up, eyes swollen from tears. "Why?" "Because someone did the same for me once," Ethan said softly. "My wife saved my life. I'm just passing it on." Quote. Behind them, the desert wind carried a final, quiet whisper through the rocks. Ethan didn't look back. He didn't need to. He made a silent promise to Lily right there, to protect her, raise her, and make sure she never had to run from the world again. Their journey wasn't over, but their new life had begun.